Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts are meant to give everyone a voice, a chance to speak with others who are passionate advocates for expanding the blockchain's use cases out into the world and beyond. Do you have a crypto community you would like to represent and hold open Hangouts for? If so, you might find yourself on the path to owning a stake in Beyond Bitcoin. We are looking for people who care about people who want to bring others together, because crypto communities are people. Beyond Bitcoin is a movement of thinkers and doers in the crypto space. And if you feel you are one of them, reach out to beyondbitcoin@gmail.com for more information on how to debut your community's efforts to reach to the stars and beyond.
Facts basically to say, okay, how much can we really how many transactions can we really put through the graphene chain? And the idea is basically to set up a special chain just for that with I think 8 different witnesses who are going to run the chain, and then they're going to be a special script running over a couple of minutes to basically plot the graphene, this special test network with traffic to see, okay, how many transactions can we do? In the last tests that have been done, I think over a year ago almost, we could manage up to over 10,000 transactions per second with a specific script, which is, of course, by far one of the fastest blockchains we have really on the market, which is really outstanding to see so much power in a decentralized way. And this is a new approach now to do that again. And I would like to get your feedback now. What do you think about it? And how can we support these 8 witnesses to do that? Yeah, basically what it is, it's an open test. I think it will be coordinated in the BitShares forum, bitsharestalk.com or .org, and everybody can participate in the test. There will be a specific time and place, and there's also going to be a specific way how to run the test so that everybody can that we get the best results and everybody can join. And I see a lot of people already how you say, they're already giving away their servers to do that. I know that we are also providing part of our dedicated servers that we have for BlockPay. We're going to use the German and the French server within the test, and I think it's also going to be very good to take that result, the figures that we have at the end, to share that within the blockchain communities to really say, okay, this is what we can do today, and we can already do that actually since more than a year. To the Steam blockchain, and so the Steam can do similar results. And this is a very interesting part where other chains can learn from how to scale and how to really build tools or businesses on top of a very fast chain. Fuzzy, are you back with your microphone, or is it broken? I think he's gone. Okay. Yeah, G Chicken also is writing that he's also bringing up his note. That is very good. Thank you very much for your support here. I think we have 8 witnesses now, so that is a good amount. Another thing that came up in the last couple of weeks, and I mean, we also have this very good weekly BitShares report that I think is really outstanding. You find it on Steemit. I'm also putting that on Twitter, so if you really want to get up to date what is happening in the BitShares system, these are very good ways how to learn more about it. We were talking about a wish list. A data security node was asking around in the Telegram channel, what can we build? What would be the best thing for BitShares to move forward? And we had tons of feedback here over prediction markets, over side chains, over better user interface, different wallets. I think we also had new websites, we have tutorials, and so on. So I think there's a lot of stuff that people really would like to have, but we have a problem that nobody really is building it right now. I think we are stuck in a certain way with BitShares, that everybody is required to get paid for the work, and that's a big problem. Because in the old days, if you really think back about new platforms, you had a lot of people who are contributing, who are providing tutorials and text and marketing support and all that. basically for free because they believed in the platform, they believed in the growth and the potential it has. But we are pretty much stuck because everybody now just thinks about how can I get paid, and we experience that the worker proposals are kindly working, not exactly, but we have a lot of issues with that, and there's still problems with trust. And the big thing is, okay, how can we solve these kind of problems, and how can we basically as a community say, okay, you know what, even if I just have 2 hours per week, maybe one afternoon, I still start to work on a project. I'm still going to support the community, because if you don't do it now, you will never do it, and it will never happen. This is, I think, just a lesson that we all learned. Because I was talking, for example, with the core dev of the Dash community, and they explained exactly the same phenomenon, the same experience, that in the Dash community, if there's a lot of people who want to have stuff, they want to have a new website, a new mobile wallet, they want to have new marketing, new videos, whatever it is. But if there's nobody really who's paying for that, nothing will happen. And the Dash community, they're really pushing hard to engage people to finish stuff, to start a project, finish it, and to share it with the community. And I think that is pretty nice to see that they are very active in this one. And I think we could see in the last 5 to 6 months a real increase in Dash, not only in the price but also in the public relation and the appearance. They are more vocal, they're up to date, they're out there, and they are still one of the best alternative coins to Bitcoin. If you think about all the others that are on the market, Dash is doing a really interesting job. And I wonder, what is your feedback, your ideas? How can we build something similar? How can we improve our current community to say, okay, even if I don't get paid, I'm still willing to contribute. I'm still writing, for example, a little post. I'm still interested to be active on Twitter. There's also a big thing, for example, even after I think 3 years of BitShares, there is no Wikipedia article. There was a team with BitShares 1.0. Also, Ken was in there, who was writing the BitShares Wikipedia article. But then with the release of BitShares 2.0, that article was worthless. It was not used anymore, and the technology totally changed. But since there's no lead dev team anymore who could really change the code, I think it would be time to really get out a nice Wikipedia article about graphene and to really just share the technology, the awesome stuff we have here, because I think still for many, Wikipedia is a very important source to just think about, okay, what is that? Why is graphene so fast? How does it work? What are the 3 different components that we have? What is a worker, and so on? We have the documentation, which is not complete yet. It's very good, but it's not complete. And this could be a very nice project where people could really volunteer and add their input. What is your idea and feedback about that?
Have anything to say before I speak up? I personally will say that I think one of the main reasons why BitShares has most people paying attention to posting on Steam as opposed to BitShares Talk and things like that is really because of the fluidity of the payment. You know, somebody can vote for the stake they've put into the system with the stake they've put into the system on something, instead of having to wait for the entire majority to vote on something. So rather than necessarily being able to give, $1,000 to somebody, you can still give them, maybe 50 cents if you spend a lot of time on the platform and working, and you can get other people to do the same. And it has a kind of to the n squared effect, right? As more people join the pool, it becomes more powerful. So it really seems like the incentive structure in that sense really makes it easier, because I know one of the reasons why I haven't run a witness is because it's not only do I have to pay money to get it started up and everything, but it's like it just doesn't seem like there are a lot of people who are saying, well, who will say, well, you should do this instead of a witness. You should, do a crowdfunder. You have a lot of people who have their own opinions on what you should do other than getting paid. And generally those people are people who are not doing a bunch of extra work in the space. So of course, this is why we ran into the problem of people like Dan Larimer himself not even being able to have a witness. And I think that right there is one of the biggest things that one of the biggest hurdles we have to overcome is making it so people can get paid for their work and maybe get paid for multiple block graphene based chains for building something that is core and important to all of them. Something like that would be amazing. I think we really hurt ourselves by not having multiple chains next too, because if you have a DNS chain and a bunch of other chains, and they all have their own demographics of people who might work for free on DNS, but might not work for free on a graphene based trading platform. Well, that opportunity's gone, right? Well, I mean, it's not gone, but what happened in the past with the merger kind of held that back from us being able to get those people who might, or if there's a secondary chain like that, people might be able to get paid from that chain as well to work. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. I guess what I'm getting to is I like the way that Steam does it. Reason being because one of the things that's concerning whenever you try to go and vote on BitShares is that you really do have to you have to have a lot of backing, and it's so distributed and it's held on centralized trading platforms where you can't even vote with your BTS if you hold them there, that we're running into those types of problems. And I'm personally I've been kind of curious, what if we did implement something where if you lock away your BTS, you get the voting? That way it's people who are holding the tokens, forcing themselves to hold on to the tokens, and literally, like, by locking themselves in, they're attaching the risk and the repercussions to them, because they can't sell right away. I really do. Yeah, I personally think that system is something that we should look at.
Well, I think it's definitely an interesting idea to say, like, okay, only people who it's like the Dash masternode network, where you just have to basically lock away a certain amount of BitShares, or just the action of doing that allows you to participate in the voting system. I was just thinking about where you were talking, Fuzzy. If you have companies like ours, BitShares Munich, we have a lot of BitShares lying around, but this is for us working capital, so we cannot really use that and lock it away somewhere to vote. And we are still centralizing. We're still collecting all the running BitShares into our accounts, into our company accounts, similar like the exchanges are doing that. And I think at the end, the power still relies with the big companies. So all the big companies that are building on the blockchain are now having control over the network. And if you just have a couple of thousand BitShares, then effectively you don't really have any influence. It's very small, and you need to really run a lot of marketing to move people to do something. If you are required to lock it away, maybe then it could be different, because then it would mean for a company they cannot really lock it away because they need the money to work.
Yeah.
But for the regular people, that's just a saving.
That's a very good point.
So that they are not really affected in that way. Actually, smaller people have more power, but it will not really work for exchanges, because for exchanges it's all in cold storage. So it's a little bit different here.
Yeah. Speaking about that, you were asking about things that BitShares could do, and I think another one that BitShares could do would have something where if I put in X amount of Bitcoin, it's held somehow on the blockchain or off blockchain, or some solution where you can actually have IOUs backed by the real token, by the real thing, and just like so people can see it, that way. Because what I think is another problem is that a lot of people are kind of afraid to see IOU.BTC, ABC.BTC, and all these things, right? Like, for those of us who are in the know, we understand that all exchanges essentially are giving you an IOU. They're just not, since they own the site, they don't have to compete in the namespace of BTC on their site. So they just, put BTC there and it's there. And they don't necessarily show you that they have as many BTC as you might want them to have or anything like that. But that might be something else that's holding BitShares back. But those are the two biggest things that I can see. The voting one, though, is one of the bigger ones, man.
Yeah, I think also the problem is with the voting system is you need to have a trusted party who's updating the code and who also has a value of it. I mean, like Ken and I, we were discussing that topic quite for a while already. How can we add new features to the BitShares code base without basically losing too much money as a company? Because of course we have a lot of people who are trained on the graphene technology, but if you tell them, okay, now build this and that feature, it costs us a lot of money that we didn't really figure out yet how to compensate that. And this is an ongoing discussion. How can we make that possible? Worker proposal would be one thing, but then it has to be really a long worker proposal, and it's not really secure. So I'm really open to the community to say, like, okay, how can we fund these kind of efforts in the future to update the blockchain and the code to have like all these new cool features that we have in our wish list, and how can we do that? I mean, we have developers who can do it, but it's just the money that is missing.
Chris, you've already got experience of how to do it. You write a post on Steemit, and people who are interested in that feature, like me, like Fuzzy, like you and Ken, will upvote it, and a whole bunch of other people will upvote it, and you've got an initial startup funds, and then you write progress reports, and you get more funds. It's been done. You guys have done it.
This is true. I mean, you guys have done that. Now, one question that I would have for this, and once upon a time, you can obviously, I would like to hear your thoughts on it too, because one of the things that I've been thinking, many of us who are here, we talked about pre-merger, right? Like the days when we had multiple chains that were expected to be made graphene using graphene for different use cases, right? Like the DNS, music, video games, and things like that, right? And it's looking like we're starting to go in that direction a little bit more since peer plays and Steam are coming out. But if you guys notice, each one of these chains almost is like a tool in and of itself. And I find myself thinking like the market itself, if you guys have noticed, when you come out with a chain like BitShares that can do so many things, and like for instance the wallet, when people look at the wallet these days and they're like, oh my god, this is not a cryptocurrency wallet, this is an exchange in a wallet, right? Like a lot of people that blows their minds, but it kind of scares them too. And the thing that I'm thinking is the market almost like I'll see certain coins that just have one use case, and it seems to somehow be as valued as a coin that can do multiple things. And it seems like for me, the market's just telling us create many different chains, test them all, and then incorporate what you like from a new chain, do an ICO on a new chain, share drop, take some of the funds from that to build on different things, and then if it works out and the community in BitShares likes it, then then you have a historical precedent where you can say, hey, BitShares is the first mover. They're in a great position for that, right? They can say, oh, this chain worked. This worked with this chain. This worked with this chain. Okay, we can add it now. Let them take the risk. But they're the ICO thing out there, the way the ICOs seem to work. If you create one chain that does one thing well, people are happy and you get the funding to keep building. So I personally think that that's where BitShares can take over, and especially if you share drop, you automatically get added to the BitShares exchange, and we incentivize things like that. I think we win.
Yeah, but for many companies, it's still a problem with the share drop. Where I would agree is to say there are a lot of companies and startups who make the decision to build their own blockchain because they say they want to have everything custom made. It has to fit their business model and their idea, and especially also, I was just sitting together with a banker to talk about that for lunch. The big problem for a lot of startups is the intellectual property rights, the IP rights. And if you are talking with venture capitalists, with angel investors, and any other kind of investor, they always want to know, okay, where is the IP? Who holds the intellectual property? Can we license that? How can we make money with that? And if you're building on top of a blockchain, that's a little bit difficult because then you don't really have the IP. You just have the IP maybe for your own product, but it's not for the real valuable kicker that is the rocket fuel to the moon. That is a blockchain, and you don't have it. So I think that's for many people very clear to decide, okay, I will do my own chain. However, what does it mean? That means I just have a very specific use case, a very specific program.
Bingo.
But for the consumer, he wants to have an accurate product. He wants a product that does all of them in a certain environment that he likes. So you will need a platform that can exchange the different information from all the different blockchains or platforms in one product. I see that more and more coming with Echo. The more I talk with different partners and ideas, and people approach us to say like, oh, we want to be part of Echo. We want to be there. And I see actually Echo growing into a platform where people can build third-party applications on top of it. We see similar stuff with Mycelium, for example. So Mycelium is also moving in that direction to be a platform where other people can build on top. Steam is the same thing. So at the end, I think what really is going to be the most valuable thing is the platform that creates the interconnectability between the different blockchains and displays it that people can use it.
That's a good point. You're talking kind of like are you talking about a blockchain that kind of almost like Factom does?
No, I'm thinking more about, you have these blockchain silos. You have all these different platforms like Augur, and then you have Steam and all the other different products that are all running on their own chain. But the consumer at the end, he wants to use all of them, but not in 5 different apps. You want to have one app, or you want to have a chatbot, something similar. We see that basically also now in the regular startup scene, that the consumer wants to have it basically all very much in one app, and not in 5 different ones. And the platforms or the teams that can build the bridges, like Shapeshift is a perfect example for that. That is bridging the different communities and make them able to communicate. That is the most valuable thing. And I think BitShares here has a very interesting position, because we are making it very easy to trade tokens of different exchanges, of different platforms, and to exchange that, not only for like a Shapeshift style, but also in terms of a stock, in terms of ICO investments, and so on. There's actually a new startup who's doing ICO. They're building an ICO exchange or something. Yeah, they're located now in Singapore. They raised a couple of millions, and they're building now the first, they claim, exchange where you can buy or invest into startups. Well, we have that with Open Ledger and with BitShares. We have that already for a year, and we are growing dramatically. I mean, like if you look at Ronnie's effort and how many projects he's bringing onto the chain and where people can invest, it's pretty outstanding. And I see more and more of this coming to us.
Have you guys talked to Ronnie, and have you guys considered the possibility of doing? I mean, graphene would blow any other chain that's meant to do this out of the water, and then you could have BitShares in addition to it. I just don't understand why we don't leverage graphene, because everybody else is too stuck on the other technologies that are out there for whatever reason, whether they don't know what it does and what it can do, or they're a maximalist, or any number of reasons. The only way that I think that we really get people building graphene chains, which is only going to help BitShares and brand recognition and all that, is by creating an easy way for people to build graphene chains and reward them for it in some way, shape, or form. Especially if they reward the early people who created graphene, like the holders of PTS, or any number of different projects contributing the history of that. I personally am thinking, man, like, what keeps us from having a chain like that? What keeps us from having an ICO chain? I mean, couldn't Ronnie get a bunch of funding using his network for an ICO chain?
Well,
and are you guys capable of making one if you needed to? I mean, like, do you guys have the developers to do something like that?
Well, we definitely have the developers, because it's just a fork of graphene of the BitShares chain. But I think actually you don't really need to have your own chain for this kind of business model, because you have everything you need on the BitShares platform already. You don't need to have your own chain
I agree
and to
with
have
you.
full control. That would make no sense. and it will even decrease your security, because I think a lot of people still forget, if you have your own chain, you also have to run the whole security network, all the witnesses, all the miners, or everything you need to have decentralized platform. And if you're just a very small community, that's a lot of overhead. That's a lot of cost and risk that you're adding. And that's why it is smarter for certain businesses to jump on the big chains and not to run your own. But I think a lot of people are still learning that and
I agree.
waking up to that reality that it's very it costs a lot of money to run your own infrastructure.
I think it's going to take like 3 or 4 more years, honestly, before people realize that graphene is like not making their own chains is going to be better to work with another chain that already has all that stuff to a large degree. Now, the question that I have, though, is with the funding that would come from an ICO of one of these chains, what more could be done to market, to bring more people in who could help to make it larger, and, the community of knowledge, right, who can actually contribute larger?
Yeah. I think there was a very good comment in the chat a couple of minutes ago. I'm just trying to look for it, but basically what the comment was saying, that through companies like BitShares Munich and also BitCapital and Open Ledger and all the others that are building already on the Graphene, on the BitShares blockchain, they do marketing for themselves, and people are looking into the underlying technology, and they realize, wow, this is a really cool platform. So in this way, we don't really need to have so much direct marketing for BitShares, but it will definitely help. And I was also thinking about, what if you do basically another ICO? Like we take BitShares as what it is today, we wrap it in a new marketing scheme, and we do another ICO and invite people to invest into a core developing team that is then building all these new cool features that make BitShares really great and improve it. And I was wondering if people would be interested to invest in that. I'm not really sure what would be the return on invest. How can we make money with that as an investor? If you're not a big if you're not a big BitShares holder, and the price goes up, then there's not really anything else. But maybe there are other ways how to do that. FBA style is in the chat room. Yeah, that could be an interesting thing. I mean, like, what I really like, if I look, for example, at the Zcash or Zcash, everybody's pronouncing it differently. What they do, they say, okay, we take 10% or even 20% of the mining reward that is generated by each block and put it into the lead developers. We could maybe think about something similar, where we say all these new features could be built in an FBA style, so it's a feedback asset similar to the Stealth token, and the investors get the money, a part of the fees paid out as a kickback, as a dividend. And in this way, we could build the prediction markets, we could build the side chains, we could build all the other stuff that we want to have for BitShares, and could improve it like that. What are your ideas about that? So I'm just going to read, because I think a lot of people have no microphones. We have here from Des Best. He's saying, seems feasible as fees are near inexistent for the moment. Yeah, fees are pretty low, and that is what we voted for. Although, for example, for the stealth transactions, the fees are pretty high, and there's a good reason for it. We can go into another discussion. So right now, if you want to do a stealth transaction with the new feature that we are developing, it's 38 cents for one transfer. So one transfer for one person to another person in complete stealth and complete privacy costs you 38 cents. It's a one-time fee, flat. Some people could say it's high. If you say just a little, if you just send a little bit, then it can be very expensive. But if you send a lot of money, it can be cheap. And part of that money is actually shared to the stealth token holders. So we could probably build similar features. I think one of the features that was discussed also in the past was, for example, returning payments. So if you want to pay your rent with BitShares, this is a feature that is announced but not live. It's not available, and that is something where we could basically create a feedback asset or a collective feedback asset that is collecting all that, and then we can finance and build it. Let's see what else. What other kind of feedback we have here? G-Chicken is writing, it's a great investment for someone if the feature hits mainstream and is used a lot. So this is a feedback. We also have another opinion here that the FBA creates chicken egg problems of fees to use new features. That's also a problem. So I think we can see that it is still the big question: how can we fund new development? I want to just come back to the topic from before because Once Upon a Time mentioned that. Yes, we personally with BitShares Munich, we had a very good experience in how to raise funds through the Steam platform, where we basically announced a project, and we collected money, we collected Steam, we cash it out to pay our developers, and then we have monthly updates to talk about, or weekly updates to talk about what happened. The thing is, that works pretty good, and it's just the problem is it's not really a lot of money yet. If you just get $100, $150, that is not enough to pay very experienced developers. So for us, that is right now not really a choice yet. Maybe it's a good time to try it again and to say, okay, if we are building up a audience, a followership, where people are supporting us, then we can ramp up to $200 or $300 per post. But it's going to be pretty hard on Steam, other traffic going on. And I'm looking for other means of financing further development. And another idea I had for how can we fund basically new development for the BitShares platform is to say, okay, what if we bring in VC money? So if we basically show them what a great platform it is, and say, okay, you can buy BitShares, for example, and with part of the money that you gave us, we are going to develop these features to increase the value of the BitShares. That could be one thing. Another thing is that, similar to the FBA, where we say, okay, you give us money and then we build that feature and you will earn part of the kickbacks. But to really talk to big investors, similar like Ethereum did, who had these big Chinese investors invested, and to say like, okay, we really want to build this platform and it's going to provide value and probably also coming up returns for everybody, because the platform is so great and you can do so many incredible things.
You guys ran your own ICO. Can I ask you, do you feel like you would have made more money if you would have made your own chain for it?
I'm questioning that myself. I think for some people it could be more interesting. What for us is a big thing, but that's more from a legal perspective, is when you are creating an ICO and you want to avoid most of the legal problems, then you create your own chain, and you are selling the token to the own chain. And what you are claiming is that the only way how to access that network, you need to have basically a membership pass, or you need to have a ticket to enter and operate on the blockchain you build, and that is the token you sell. And in this way, you're not selling any kind of securities or stocks or anything similar. And it's a very nice way how a lot of startups and companies are avoiding these regulatory problems. In the way that they say, okay, we are not selling stocks, but we are selling tickets to a platform, an entry ticket or membership ticket, and that today in the current regulation or regulatory environment, this gives you a lot of freedom to operate. This is something that we learned, and of course everybody should do their own research. This is just a disclaimer for everybody, but if you plan something like that, it definitely helps. For us, we decided to go through the regulatory hassle. We have to talk with a lot of lawyers to really make that possible. But for us, it was a strategic decision to not have our own chain, because it would not make sense for our product. If I look at the PeerPlace chain, at the beginning I was also a little bit worried that they'd build their own chain, but the more I thought about it, the more I understand their reasoning. And from their perspective, it totally makes sense. So if you have a big project that has very unique characteristics, it makes sense to have your own chain with your own tokens. But if you can make it, and if you have a lot of good ideas, of course, there are more benefits to build on top of another chain, and then figure out a different way how you can use the tokens within your products.
The reason why I ask you is because it seems to me that you open yourself up to a lot more regulatory stuff with UIA, kind of like we were talking. B, you do have another blockchain to create a blockchain. However, if I often think, and this goes back to the history again with the merger and how everything happened, the merger. I really think that we can even go back to the old Hangouts where I talk about this. I really think that if different chains came out and created their own use cases, even if they were novel, simple graphene use cases, kind of like how PTS existed, if you guys recall, as a BitShares powered chain at one point in time, and it really was just like a wallet where you could just pass tokens around. I think about things like DNS might be a good example. How they were planning on having like an exchange where you could actually trade namespace. Different things like that. I think about all these different things, and to me, I think, well, even if it's a simple use case and BitShares could do it, the demographic for these chains often are different. So people who might not work for free for one graphene chain might work for free for Steam, or they might work for Pure Plays because they're a game, or and to me, if we were to have in the top 20, a bunch of graphene chains, and we had Hangouts where the developers of all these chains and their communities, joined together and talked about how they could work together, and you would basically see all of these chains indirectly marketing BitShares. And eventually, who knows, maybe that technology, maybe all these people who created the chains would say, why don't we just all merge all the functionality now that we've accomplished what we've accomplished? I just don't see a reason to do it any other way. Do you see a problem in that I'm not seeing?
Yes, I see a couple of problems because I think for companies who are deciding to build their own chain, there's a very specific business reason behind that, because they need a specific kind of feature, a specific kind of like built-in smart contract, or something similar, like a different speed, for example. The one community, they decide they want to run on a 2-second block time, and the other want to run on a 10-second block time because it has a certain kind of security reasons, whatever. So those two communities are pretty hard to unite. You cannot merge them because the new platform will not support both of them. So that will not work. I think it is more interesting to really incentivize people to build on one chain that is very flexible with one common business goal. So, for example, if you want to build on BitShares, there's only one good reason to build on BitShares: if you want to do crowdfunding, if you want to do money transfer, if you want to do loyalty tokens. These are all good companies, good areas where you can earn a lot of money, and where BitShares is just perfect.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Sure.
And I want to be honest here because we have to be honest. ICOO, Ronnie has a big network he can get stuff in Forbes. And I see things like ICO Know Me that are not anywhere near what graphene-based chain could do. Why not put that kind of money in Ronnie's hand? I just don't see how that's going to be negative especially if the community signed on to help him in return for, a share drop or something that gave back. I just don't see how this stuff. I see what you're talking about is in terms of like a business not wanting to necessarily build one, but I'm not talking about the business use cases. I understand where you're talking about BitShares being the place for business and stuff, transactions and things like that. And I think BlockPay kind of has that. You guys are one of the few players in the market that's really, really respected, right? So I think that's almost, to me, as long as you guys keep on that path, we don't have to worry about that. But whenever you brought up the point about Ronnie in the end, why doesn't he have the funding that, a chain like that, or the valuation of a chain like that? It's because it's a chain and the market's telling us that. So we could ignore it, or we can try to find a way of tapping into that little gold vein and have a party with a disco ball underneath it. I don't know how to do that, though.
Yeah, there's another thing that I noticed a couple of days ago. There is a new post by the Chinese. There's a new witness from Yao. Yao is one of the oldest BitShares members, very active in the Chinese community, and he was mentioning this other graphene project, which is called Yo-Yo, which is graphene chain, which is focusing on China. I was wondering if anybody knows more about that. That would be quite interesting because I never really heard about that project. And if it's a graphene chain, I was wondering, what is it about?
That's a good. Does anybody here speak Mandarin and stuff like that? Like, and has read a lot of information on this? That's a great point, man.
Maybe it was a slip. I mean, like there are these rumors that the Chinese community is building their own graphene BitShares version or something. I was asking them, but they denied it. So I don't really know what's up. But I see if you look at the Chinese community, it's giant. There are millions of people actually who are really, really interested in that. And there's a lot of traffic. I think one of the biggest QQ groups, the biggest chat groups for BitShares, they have like 50,000 people in there. So it's massive. The problem is only that we have this huge language barrier, so we cannot really communicate and get excited about the platform together. Huh? So Yao and his team, and also Kim Sif, who are actually also BlockPay ambassadors, they help us to build that bridge with those communities. But it would be very interesting to see how they are approaching, and what is Yo-Yo? What kind of project is that?
Do you want to, maybe some of us can reach out to them on BitShares Talk and see if they'll come on to talk about it?
For sure. For them, it's just a time problem. It's very late. I know that that Yao is very busy right now. He has a very interesting job, and he has not always so much time. But I can ask him if he has time to join us and to tell us a little bit more about it.
That'd be awesome. I hate to like press on that. It's just I find myself wondering about I think was it you who brought up eDinar when it first was announced that it was going to be done?
I think, yeah. I think I mentioned it because I was running over it somewhere, and right now it's a crazy platform because it's a Steam. No, it's a BitShares fork. It's a copy with all the wallets, with the mobile wallets, one-to-one. Just they switched the names, but it's gaining a lot of traction, and they just have a very good marketing, and it shows you what you can do. They also have a lot of trading volume. Just yesterday, I was looking at the coin market cap at the exchanges. They have like $400,000 trading volume per day. It is insane. It's really good.
So when we have, and that's kind of what gets me thinking about this, is like they're using graphene. Nowhere did I read in their announcement that they were using BitShares based technology. I did.
Yeah, that is important that is important to mention, as T-Bone is writing. It is a multi-level marketing scheme. So of course they are good at marketing because they are selling very high returns, and it can be, or it's very likely, a scam. Everybody has to decide that for themselves, but it looks very much like one, and that's why they have a lot of volume. But I think what it does, it really showcases a graphene technology that there's a lot of things possible to do, and that is just simply amazing.
What's it called?
It's called eDinar. I have an issue though with these unknown graphene chains that are popping up that apparently none of us heard of until they come about, and there's not even any talk of share dropping. There's nothing about what it is, community involvement, anything like that. And the share drops, I mean, like Pure Plays seems to be the only one that has offered anything of the sort, and we did it for numerous reasons, but that was because we had a very advanced high-level understanding of the whole thing and where we are in the community. So the thing is, though, is that with these new projects that keep popping up using the graphene base, we can say, yeah, it's great, they're using our technology, but I mean, the truth is that, I mean, these are projects that basically have gone rogue. I mean, they've just decided to take the code and not give back at all to the community where it originated from, save them literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in development. I mean, they would have never been able to do it unless BitShares existed. So it's really, I don't want to sound like I'm going negative or anything, but if we're going to have any kind of protection, I guess you could say, in terms of what we have to offer as far as the technology is concerned, or as being the originators, I think that projects that decide to just take code and then not compensate in any way or give any acknowledgement, I think that they basically have to be outed. I think we're either going to show support and really showcase projects that actually provide some kind of I don't want to say compensation, some kind of like consideration to the originating community. Those should really be showcased, while others that don't, I think should really kind of, I mean, like, what kind of project are you if you go and you just take other code and then just like hide the fact that you did that? That it's very it's somewhat underhanded, and I think that it's something that as a community, if there's some type of I guess you could say acknowledgement of these things that is clear and public, it might deter others from taking such actions as we've seen over the last year from others that are just starting these rogue projects and just not, like, we don't even know about it, and oh, by the way, we're using what you guys have.
So what do you think? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I think that was around a very good closing verse from Data. I totally agree that this is an issue. We also see that with our wallets, that a lot of people are starting to copy and look into the Smartcoins wallet, and it's open source, everybody can do it. But of course, we also would be glad to get mentioned and to get the credits for that. eDinar, as far as I know, they don't do that. They don't credit the graphene, they don't follow the MIT license, and they're not crediting cryptonomics. So that's a big problem. However, I think this was the first hour is almost up. So I think it was a very interesting discussion. We had a good start talking about more BitShares centric, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We have 5 minutes before the next show is going to start, so I would like to end it for today and give everybody a short break, wrap it up, and then we will go on with the next show with the Beyond Bitcoin by Fuzzy. Thank you very much for joining today, and talk to you all soon.
Chris, thank you very much for representing this chain with this stuff, because I've been waiting for a long time for somebody to do this, because you guys hear me talk about this stuff from kind of the angle of multiple graphene chains. One of the things that Beyond Bitcoin was always wanting to do was to try to be one of the ways that we incentivize what Data's talking about. It wouldn't even be as bad if the eDinar people were to like come around and talk about eDinar and be open to being asked questions by the people who actually know the most about this technology. But I don't think that a lot of people realize one of the worst things about that is not that they're taking this technology and using it. It's that whenever they're not giving telling people where they got this technology and telling them about it. This makes it so pretty much any script kiddie can go out there and make a chain like that and act as though it's they are the person who has the skills to build a chain from scratch like that. So it's almost it feels to me like I don't know who these people are. Maybe they are extremely competent, but they could very well not be, and could be relying on witnesses and a nice front end designer, and maybe it's completely legit project. But why not come around and talk about it? Why not why kind of hide away? Why not participate in a community and become part of the community as opposed to completely opposing it just for profit?
I was wondering similar things. I always have that eye-opening moment. I'm just thinking about the name of the two brothers from the Nordic countries who were going to a regular fintech event, and they were just pitching about BitShares and also about Steam, and they were talking with investors, and the investors were just blown away by the technology. They're like, wow, this is incredible that exists, that is finished. And I could imagine that a lot of investors were coming up to them and asking them, okay, how can we participate? How can we invest? How can we get started? And they just have to say, like, sorry, but the thing is already done. It's public, it's open source. But I think people, when the first time when they hear about the features, they're just blown away.
La 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 la.